Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something that actually doesn't get a whole lot of press coverage. It's the capsizing and the sinking of boats of illegal alien migrants in the Mediterranean Sea. So just recently, there was a boatload, as I understand it anyway, of Pakistani illegals, and somewhere between 700 and 800. No one seems to be really sure. And the boat sank, and the most, if not nearly all of those illegals were drowned at sea, somewhere near or not far from the coast of Greece. Now, what were they doing there? How does that many illiterate peasants, illiterate in their own language, how do they manage to find the money to pay the people smugglers? And we need to just look at the architecture of the international people smuggling ring. Now, apparently travel agents and all sorts of people who are supposedly associated with the travel industry often pimps for the people smuggling rings, but they're also working in close concert with United Nations and various NGOs that are very committed to, the George Soros type thing, that are very committed to mass immigration from the third world into the first world. And this is very much a globalist objective. So they're fully satisfying globalist aspirations and objections in doing this. But it's quite a widespread and intricate ring of illegality that somehow nobody seems to want to stop. Now, to how sophisticated these people are is another matter, but just reading through various articles, we find that travel agents universally across Pakistan and elsewhere across the third world are, and bear in mind, we're not talking about an air-conditioned office where you go in and there's people sitting behind computers with great dentition and well-dressed and all that. We're not talking about that. These travel agents exist as sort of shadowy figures in overcrowded bazaars, in little sort of cramped dark rooms, and they're a travel agent, and or what's called a travel agent in those dirt poor third world countries. And but again, they're really pimps for the international smuggling ring, of which the United Nations and the NGOs is very much a part of. It's all integrated into the one whole. So now these people actively fan out into the population and into the illiterate peasant villages, and particularly into the rural areas. They probably wouldn't have a whole lot of joy with the upper middle class college educated people, but they fan out into the rural villages where the mass of the illiterate peasantry live. And there's well over 100 million of these people in Pakistan, and they tell tales of the streets of Europe are paved with gold, and all you have to do is get there and you'll be rich and you'll have everything and you'll have all those hot white chicks, and so this is particularly appealing to the young men there, and again, they're illiterate in their own language, and they're probably inbred. They're quite simple people, and they're told that vast riches and glory and so on await just over the horizon. Now, some of these people are so illiterate that they believe that, and they're told that Europe is even though it's many thousands of kilometres away, they're told it's 1 or 2 days walk from where they are. So, no, it's no big deal. Just around the corner, just over the next hill, and then that's it, you'll be there. So, and yet we're supposed to believe that these illiterate peasants, by the way, who exist on somewhere approximately a household income of $1,000 US a year, and they're living subsistence hand to mouth. somehow they're able to find between 10 and 15,000 US dollars to pay cash to these people smuggler pimps. Now, where would somebody like that find that sort of money? Even on a good middle class income in Pakistan, it would take you 3 years of the total income to be able to pay that. So given that you've got living expenses and you've got to eat and all that sort of stuff, it would take, and given the higher proportion of, the cost of food in those places relative to your total income, it would take easily 10 years of quite disciplined saving to be able to come up with that sort of money to pay a people smuggler. So clearly these peasants aren't doing it. Let's suppose that everyone in the village made some sort of contribution to one of their number getting over to the rich West. Then it would take over 100 of them 12 months. Villages, assuming again quite disciplined saving, you take 112 months to be able to save that money. Now that's possibly what's going on, because they think they're all cousins and second cousins and all that sort of stuff, and the tribe and the village and their ancestors have lived in that village for thousands of years. So it's quite possible those things happen on the basis that once they get to the West, they'll send money back to the village, or they'll get all their relatives to come over to the West, so they'll all be immigrants and so on. So there could be all that sort of stuff going on as well, but it's unlikely they could be that disciplined and that organized. So clearly the money's coming from somewhere else. But the role of the United Nations and the NGOs that work hand in glove with the United Nations needs to be considered here. They're fully culpable for creating and fomenting and facilitating this mass movement of people. Now, the money gets paid to the people smugglers that are in effect protected by the NGOs and the UN and various governments as well. And then these people are moving to various sort of way stations and stop-off points along the way from Pakistan to Europe or to the European Union. Their ultimate destination for most of them is Britain, so they're going to pass through somewhere between 5 and 12 countries to get to, depending on which route they take. They could pass through up to 17 countries, but they're going to pass through all these other countries. Now, Pakistan's not at war and so on, but the United Nations, their propaganda machine immediately clicks into gear, and they fan out across the mass media and the mainstream media and out the propaganda pumps. The UN they always manage to find a picture of a woman with a young girl dressed in pink to just sort of push home the propaganda message of look, it's only just women with little girls dressed in pink that are trying to have a better life. Are you against that, you damn fucking Nazi? So their argument is, well, you can't blame people for wanting a better life. So what if they break laws? So what if they pay bribes to people? So what? So what? They just want a better life, and they're brown and you're white. And if you're white complaining about it, that makes you fucking Hitler. So the propaganda machine clicks into gear whenever these disasters take place. But I'm surprised at how many sinkings and capsizings and so on go on in the Mediterranean, because the journeys aren't long. By general standards, the quality of the boats that are used is quite substandard. So the idea of everybody, these boats that they're meant to carry, 250 people end up carrying 800 or something like that. So the chances of something going wrong are pretty high. Now, also, a lot of these places, when they're going from a third world type country to Europe, then a lot of them don't have life jackets and so on. If you look at how well equipped the people going from France, the French coast to England, they have these brand new rubber dinghies. They all have brand new clothes, brand new life jackets. I mean, where does the money come from to pay for all that? Do we ever investigate that sort of thing? It's very suspicious because the people don't have the money. So someone's paying to provide all that infrastructure, and without all that infrastructure, the mass immigration just couldn't take place. And this brings me back to the sinking of that boat with all the Pakistani illegals in it in Greece a few days ago. And the Pakistani government's declared a national day of mourning because of so many Pakistanis. But what are they doing there? Well, why does the Pakistani government sort of run a shithole country? Why not try and make your own country better? Why do they allow all these agitators and stirrers from the United Nations and elsewhere and all these NGOs to operate, to get into the heads of these illiterate and simple-minded, rural peasants, to say you should make that journey? It's just around the next hill. Remember, they got no concept of distance and so on. But all along the way, of the many weeks of a journey, they're given bus rides from here to there, then boats from here to somewhere else. They're given food, they're given water, they're given clothes, they're given shoes. They're given places to sleep, and so they're well looked after by the UN NGO mass globalization people movement machine. So all these people are complicit here. All of them have contributed to the death or to the putting in such a dangerous situation all these illegals. So coming back to the point, though, where does the money come from? How do these people find that sort of money to pay these illegal people smugglers? Now, on top of that money they've paid to the people smugglers, by the way, there's all that extra cost that the NGOs and the UN pays for when they stop at all these way stations. I mean, you look at some of the people that are arriving off the boats. They're dressed in brand new clothes with brand new Reeboks or Adidas joggers. They've got they look like they've just stepped out of a bathroom. They look like they've just had a haircut, and so they're not the long-haired, unshaven, wearing raggedy clothes and so on. Far from it. And they're better dressed than most of the people I see around town here. So where does the money come from? Supply. We really need, I think, to come to grips with that the amount of resources placed at the disposal of illegal mass immigration from the third world to the first world. The resources are massive, and the United Nations is as criminally guilty of participating in this as the most evil people smuggler is, in my opinion. And we really need to expose this and give some frontline stories to just the culpability of the UN in this desperate attempt they have to re-engineer Western society. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.